Welcome back to Cardinals on My Time, presented by Interstate 70 Sports Media and a part of the Baseball Banter Broadcast Network. I am Scott Plaza, and I'm coming to you after a nice little holiday break and for the first time since the Cardinals had to unfortunately deal Willson Contreras to the Boston Red Sox. If you want to get my full thoughts on that deal and what Willson meant to the Cardinals and St. Louis while he was here, make sure you jump on over to the Viva Alberto's podcast and see the episode where Jake and I discussed that Willson Contreras deal, and I had a little bit of an opportunity to give Willson his flowers on the way out. But today, I have two of my favorite Twitter accounts that I connect with as we shift our view towards the 2026 campaign. The first is returning guest DeWallet Inspector, who I had on previously and sincerely enjoyed what he had to say. Make sure you're following him on Twitter. Connect with him as much as possible. I love his takes. I love his realism and intelligence, which is actually, shockingly, pretty tough to find on that Cardinal social media landscape. And with DeWallet, I finally have the final member of the Redbirds on the Arch podcast, with Aidan Gray joining us today. I've been working to get the holy triumvirate of the boys over there together, and I can finally say I have the last piece with Aidan. Today, the three of us are going to walk through our feelings on the offseason so far, and as we look to 2026, we're going to talk about a little bit of a vibe check, what our feelings are towards the Cardinals' direction and what Chaim Bloom has done or hasn't done to this point in the offseason. Good to see you. Thanks for coming. Welcome in to Cardinals on My Time.
I've been thinking about this, Mr. Hand. If I'm here and you're here, doesn't that make it our time?
All right, and here we are. Everyone at home, before we get started, make sure you're following the podcast and all of us on social media. Make sure you're checking our handles down at the bottom. Like and comment for this video so I know what you want to hear, any feedback from the video, or just what kind of conversations you want to have. But before we get into the baseball stuff, I want to really look at 2026 and get in the New Year spirit. So, fellas, let's talk resolutions. I am officially at the point where I'm not kidding myself anymore, but Aidan, I know you're still a young buck, so and a newbie on the podcast, so let's start you going. So what's new for Aidan in 2026?
Yeah, first thing first is my first goal was to get accepted into grad school, whether it was at the university I was at previously or another school, and I actually just got accepted like an hour ago. So I'll be going back to school here in the fall. So one resolution off the board already. It was really fast, not even a week into the new year.
You can coast now.
Yeah, and then I got some. This is gonna sound so nerdy. I got some textbooks about data analysis for baseball. My goal is to get better with data analysis through coding. So we'll get better at that. I got some of those. Like coding for dummies books.
Heck yeah.
So we'll see how that goes. But that's all I got.
Hey, awesome. And you already checked one off. So again, that's if it's usually just one resolution, then call it a day and we wait until December to do it. But hey, double it, get it, and Aidan, you're doing some great stuff. So I'm excited to see what kind of stuff that takes to the next level. DeWallet, I think you might be a little bit in my point of view here. Number one, welcome back. But 2026, Thanks. What are we doing? Anything special?
We're just fending off Father Time. That's the we're trying to hold serve as best we can, and that's for the most part what we're doing. And again, I want to say congrats to Aidan. That's awesome about grad school. And if you get into the coding and you have any sequel questions, let me know because I can probably help you there a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
But no, just again holding off Father Time and trying to enjoy myself. Cardinal wise, one resolution I'm trying to hold myself to is to hold down my reactionary impulses for Bloom's first real off season, and just kind of give him time and remind myself the rebuild is going to be not a short process. So just keep the BP down early on.
Would you say patience is going to be important for your...
We don't use the P word around here.
Sorry, I'm trying to leave patience and runway behind in 2025 as well. So you'll find me using the word opportunity quite a bit this year. But 2026 is here. In the last episode, if you didn't catch it, I had Matt Smith and Thomas Gauvain on. All three of us are teachers, and DeWallet just said he didn't want to be reactionary. we said, let's be reactionary. So we put together winter report cards for Chaim Bloom's offseason, and we had to clarify it was at this point of the offseason. We decided to say it was like a winter progress report. We were kind of all on the same page, kind of disappointed with the lack of trades at that point. We all gave Bloom a C. And then Bloom responded to my kind of negative view on his offseason by taking my love and passion of Willson Contreras and ripped him away from me in St. Louis. So this is our first time talking since he got shipped to Boston. I think I'm over it now. I still think it provides more questions than answers for the future. So while I was asking for a deal, it was a bummer that it came at the expense of Willie, but it at least gave me that, hey, I need a trade to happen, and he did. We're here with DeWallet and Aidan. So again, thanks to both of you guys for joining. But I'm still calling this a lackadaisical offseason. I was very excited coming in with how quickly Sonny Gray was traded. I said, here we go. It was pre-Thanksgiving. And then we kind of hit that standstill. I still think that at least one more trade needs to be made. I've been vocal about that here very recently. Brendan Donovan continues to be highly valued by the organization. Aidan, we were talking about that, and I'd love to get into that a little bit more. And the asking price remains sky high, and Bloom has kind of doubled down on that. Nolan Arenado continues to stay at third base, remaining a key clog instead of a cog for the rest of the roster. I wrote that down. I'm like, let's go. That one's going to work. And then one that I still think that we keep forgetting about, at least I do, is Jojo Romero. He's still sitting in the back end of the bullpen, ready to save maybe some of the Cardinals' 78 projected wins. At least that's what Fangraphs has them on as of this morning. Bloom made one more move this morning. He grabbed a Justin Brule from the Guardians, a lefty reliever similar to John King, and that's all I really want to say about that. So, guys, before we get into the 2026 stuff, leaving the 2025 baseball, the record, and the statistics behind, let's talk about since Chaim Bloom has taken over. So let's first start with the two trades. DeWallet, I've had those conversations with you a little bit on Twitter, so I want to kind of hear what you have to say. The two trades specifically with Sonny Gray and Willson Contreras, what have we been thinking about of those so far?
So I like them both. I don't think they're knocked out of the park trades, but they're pretty good. And both of them have a similar archetype. So you've got the kind of boring but with some interesting elements, back of the rotation guy, and then a fun prospect who could be a really good pitcher or could just never really even make the major leagues. So there's, you've kind of got but I love the upside because I felt like that was one of the things that we were lacking in recent years is getting those players with really, and Clark especially, having that top end talent that is hard to come by. And of course it comes with question marks, and the only reason you're getting those players for Willson Contreras and Sonny Gray is because they have question marks. But I like both of them. They do give me some excitement for what might be to come later on as we maybe get some more moves, but I'm pretty happy with the two moves so far.
All right, Aidan, what about you? What do you think about the necessity of the trade, throwing money in, the prospect return, the whole aspects?
Yeah, so the money was kind of going to be my first point. I felt Bloom and the ownership was very honest with us when Bloom was introduced as the player of baseball operations. And that first step was the ownership telling us that they're going to give Chaim Bloom every resource they need to make him a successful Pobo in our organization. And I think they've held up to that promise. You saw the Cardinals send $10 million to the Boston Red Sox in the Sonny Gray deal. I can't remember what the Contreras was. Maybe I got those backwards, but they sent money in both trades, I know. And it wasn't cheap.
Yeah, I think it ended up being 30 million total, or 32 and a half.
Yeah, I was going to say it might have been like 20 for Sonny and 10 for Willson.
Yeah.
So I really like that ownership has been a little more honest with us this offseason. I think Chaim Bloom's been very honest with us so far. And the second thing he pointed out is he wants to kind of bring back old Cardinals baseball. He wants to redevelop the farm system. He wants to build Cardinals teams based off what they have from their development system. And I feel like in recent years they've kind of shied away from that. Of acquiring Paul Goldschmidt, acquiring Nolan Arenado, which made sense at the time, but it wasn't the typical Cardinals way we know, with developing Yadier Molina, developing Albert Pujols. And now they're kind of reverting back to that old way. You got Brandon Clark in the Sonny Gray deal, who has high upside. Obviously, the stuff is great. Needs to work on the command a little bit. Obviously, he had the blister issue, which really forced his command to take a hit. But Richard Fitz, another great addition. Something Farmhands and I talked about is we noticed that the front office went for high upside pitchers in the draft, but they've kind of gone for low end pitching in trades. And what we mean by that is you've got back end starters to give you some stability in case these top prospects don't pan out, right? Which is huge. And they're kind of taking a new route at that with this new bad fastball philosophy. I don't know if you guys have heard about this yet, but it's basically guys who throw fastballs who have less spin on it. They cut it a little bit more, which means they get different shapes with different pitches, which allows them to throw more pitches, like a guy like Richard Fitz, like a guy like Hunter Dobbins. So this is allowing them to expand their starting pitching role. This is allowing them to create competition within the team, which the Cardinals, I felt like, have not had that in recent years. I feel like a lot of guys have been promised their spots, and I like that they're creating competition throughout the team. They want guys to want to be there. They want guys to play the best they can to their abilities. So I've liked how this 2025-2026 offseason has gone so far.
Yeah, I viewed the pitching in a similar way as you guys have. I mentioned that on Viva Alberto's when they asked about the Willson Contreras one. I was like, you know what? The return, if it wasn't for the draft, I'd be upset about it. But because of what they did target in the draft and what they did early, that does give them that flexibility to change or be, again, that more flexible in what it is that they're receiving. So it seems like all three of us understand the necessity of the deals. We feel good about the returns. But then we heard that Bloom was talking about wanting a veteran starter. We were thinking Tyler Mahle. He went to San Francisco, and then it ends up being Dustin May, kind of that 1 year bounce back. I was hoping for 1 year with an option, or maybe something kind of a 2 year with some incentives attached to it. But 1 year deal, best for both sides. Aidan, let's jump with you real quick. What was your thoughts on the Dustin May signing? I know you talked about having that competition, and that brings, potential 6 starters. We've heard that before. We have 6 starters. We're good. We've heard that. So where do you think that puts the current rotation at with the signing of Dustin May?
Yeah, I think you're going to see Dustin May inside the rotation once 2026 starts. He's a guy that was a top prospect at one point for the Dodgers. Maybe not one, but one of the top prospects. Has real life with his stuff, but injuries have really derailed his career so far. Recently he had that freak accident with his esophagus where, he was facing life or death, really, which, nobody wants to go through that. And it's really taken a toll on him and his development. He kind of switched up his repertoire in terms of usage last year. He threw more sweepers than he typically had in previous years. Something I did notice, though, is his fastball shape had dramatically changed. It was more dead zone, so, same horizontal, same vertical movement, which is easier for guys to hit, which is probably why his fly ball rate on the fastball was really high, but the great thing about that is he's in Busch Stadium now.
There you go.
Fly balls don't fly out often in Busch Stadium, but I think the Cardinals have done a really good job in helping pitchers redevelop pitches and their shapes. So I'm interested to see how they handle an older guy and redeveloping him, really. Can they make him that caliber player he was supposed to be? Because he's still only 28. He's not 34. If this really works out, he could be a trade piece, or maybe Chaim Bloom really likes him and they say, hey, this could be a piece we keep for another 3-4 years, and he can kind of be that veteran guy we need in the rotation, because we don't have that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You traded Sonny Gray, so you need somebody to kind of lead that rotation. I don't think any of us want that to be Palante. I don't think any of us want that to be Liberatore in 2-3 years. Maybe Dustin May could be that guy. There are a lot of factors, but it was a move that felt that needed to be made. I think a lot of us fans wanted it.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's been an option on the table for a few years now, and it's never been done by Money Mo. But Chaim Bloom has done that, and he's showing a change in culture, and I really like that.
Yeah, I agree. I think that was a clear move that needed to be made, and maybe we just need to bring back Dave Duncan, get him back for a second, keep that development, getting that right back on track. DeWallet, what do we think about Dustin May? Were you one that was, hey, it was a match made in heaven?
Yeah, I think especially on the 1-year deal, I love it. Does it have a lower floor than some other options out there? Yes. Does it have a higher ceiling? Absolutely yes, which is why I love it. He probably ends up somewhere in the middle. To me, the best case scenario, I guess, within the most likely range of outcomes is that he's wearing a different uniform in July and we have some really fun prospects to play around with, or different pieces, maybe young players, not just prospects, but we have some fun pieces aside from that. But the arm talent is there. He's had some regular pitcher injuries, and like Aidan said, he had the weird, really unfortunate, scary injury as well. So there's a ton of upside there. And those are the kind of risks that I think most Cardinal fans want Chaim to take, instead of kind of that, hey, we know what we're going to get, the Kyle Gibsons, and everybody loves Kyle Gibson. He's wonderful. He's very much is what he is. Everyone is kind of tired of that middle lower band of we know the results are going to be in this narrow pathway, and it's not going to get up here, and we want up here.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's going to bring me. I think Aidan said Liberatore, you don't want to see him as that spot in 2 to 3 years, and I get that. So I saw something the other day. Who is the opening day starter? Is it Dustin May, who is the quote-unquote veteran at only 28, but comes with more fanfare than Matthew Liberatore, who held up the rotation? I think those are the only two in contention for holding that at this point. So I think between between Liberatore and May, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if it is Dustin May on opening day. What do you guys think?
I would agree. I think the veteran part of it kind of tips the scales. Now maybe Liberatore just wipes out the Grapefruit League, and maybe that changes, but my guess is that it's probably Dustin May, and I think that's fine. I think that's good. There's still opportunity for Liberatore to be the staff ace or the number one, but I think as everything shakes out and kind of knowing tendencies of the organization, it's probably May.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the opposite scale. I think right now it's Liberatore. I think there are two factors that go into it. One, how their spring trainings go, obviously. And two, I think Liberatore's fastball velo is going to be an indication on whether or not he's going to be your opening day starter.
Good point.
Is he going to be a guy who's going to be able to stay out there longer than he was last year? Is he going to be able to maintain the velocity he has? Is he going to come into spring training throwing a little bit slower, like low 90s, like how he was? I think it's just going to depend on a couple things, but I think due to Liberatore being here really the longest, maybe the longest,
sure,
I think Ollie Marmol right now would probably feel more comfortable with starting Liberatore opening day than possibly somebody else. But I'm excited because Ollie Marmol actually, I feel like, gets to coach, so he could surprise me.
There you go. Well, and if we're arguing right now in January about whether it's going to be Liberatore or May, that's kind of giving us a look at what 2026 may be for us in Cardinal Nation. So that's the offseason at this point. It seems like we're all kind of on that same point. We've had some opportunity for that, or that opportunity for it to digest a little bit, do a little bit more research, and just see and let the market kind of develop. A couple guys that the market has not developed on, or has just hit either a standstill, or we're just not hearing the full story, is on Brendan Donovan and on Nolan Arenado. So I want to turn the page to 2026, and then this is going to shift from what Chaim Bloom has done to what he possibly hasn't done. So what I want to lead this next part with is, which I am probably being a little bit reactionary in this, but I want to ask you and then try to get the thoughts around Cardinal Nation is, are we officially leaving the honeymoon phase with Chaim Bloom? I was excited as anybody else when the trade deadline was over that it was a peaceful transfer of power over to Chaim Bloom, who then made it well known that he was going to be the face of this rebuild. He was going to do the things, and he made that quick-ish move with Sonny Gray. It was the highest profile move at that point in the offseason. And then he was sneaky. Aidan, we were talking about that earlier as well. He was kind of sneaky with that Willson Contreras deal. I was in the camp that Contreras was staying with the no trade clause. Boston made sense. Both sides were able to agree. But then it's kind of just been, you know what, the two that either should have been traded or that we're expecting to hear the most about were Brendan Donovan and Nolan Arenado. So with them still on the roster, I want to ask, like, are we kind of going to be fed up, or is it time for him to pick up the pace a little bit? But what I want to do is figure out less of, again, that Donovan, that Nato, but it's time to stop comparing him to John Mozeliak. What we were excited for as he took over was, hey, this is anybody but Mo. Like, this is something new. It's something different. He made those 2 trades. He made a couple signings. Bloom could do no wrong. But now that it's 2026, I think it's time that we don't use Mo as the measuring stick. It's time to measure Bloom up to his own performance. So, DeWallet, am I overreacting? Am I thinking that the honeymoon phase is over? Am I panicking? What are we thinking?
Well, usually overreaction is on my side of the conversation when we're talking. So for me to be on the opposite end is kind of interesting. I think it is probably still a little bit early, at least for me. I think as part of my New Year's resolution, also trying to afford him some grace because, you kind of mentioned the Justin Brule acquisition today. It's not fun. It's not sexy. It's probably not going to be even meaningful long term. But it's neat to see that he's just willing to say, hey, you know what? I need a left-hander in the bullpen, and I've got a couple righties that, Zach Kent had some interesting characteristics, but, again, what are the chances that there's, anything really meaningful there? So let me swap these guys out and get another left-hander in the pen. Brule might not even make it to spring training, who knows, but it's just fun that he's willing to kind of make those moves. And those are the types of things that I was hoping for, in addition to building up the farm and, really plowing resources into development, was just those obvious moves that the roster needs another left-hander. Well, let's just go get one. There's guys out there for free. And I didn't feel like Mo really did that. He was really content. Like all the time with what he had. And I think that's what a lot of Cardinals fans kind of just got tired of. But to kind of bring it back into where the conversation was going, I'm giving him some more grace. And I know that, the Cattell thing with Donovan is kind of a hang up, and Nolan's a whole different animal. I don't even want to go there. That's kind of out of Chaim's hands anyway. But I think there really is still room. I think once we get to Florida, if the roster still feels clogged and we haven't made more moves, I think that's when the angst will probably kick up.
See, that's where I was going to have that conversation. I'm glad you brought up Nato because we talked about him a couple days ago on Twitter, where I made that he has to be gone, whether it's a trade. I know Bloom has said we're not going to release him, but he has to be gone. Whether it's Weatherholt, Sagasi, or Gorman, like somebody else has to be playing third base. We saw what he did to, I know I said I was going to leave runway last year. We saw what having Arenado did to the runway for somebody last year. To my people that hate Gorman, if Arenado was not on the team last year, Nolan Gorman is getting his 500 at-bats. Now we have a clearer view. I know some of you say he has 1,400 at-bats. We know what he is. I'm still in the camp that he's 25. We don't know. And then I believe, DeWallet, you said unless Ollie has the freedom to operate that roster how he wants to, unless Arenado becomes a $16 million bench bat, like chances are he's going to start, I would say, every day. And that's kind of where I don't want to call it frustration because I do think there's still plenty of time. But I do think Arenado should have been dealt at this point. I know he has the no trade clause, but I really wonder how much the Bregman, Eugenio Suarez stuff is really holding up his market. Aidan and I just had a lot of conversation there. Aidan, what are we thinking? Am I panicking so far?
Just a little bit. I think what people need to realize is Chaim Bloom was given a really hard assignment for his first year as the St. Louis Cardinals president of baseball operations. He's basically trying to revamp the farm system while trying to save money while also cutting some of the older players. That is really hard to do, and he did a fantastic job, obviously trading Sonny Gray and Brandon Clark. You don't need to trade Brendan Donovan. That's first off. You don't have to. Would it be nice? Absolutely, because his value is going to be higher than it is now, than it will be, say, at the trade deadline, say next offseason, because he has more term, right? The Nolan Arenado situation is really hard. He had an even worse year this year offensively. While the defense did get better, it's still not the elite defender he was 3-4 years ago. And he's just not worth the 30-something million he has left on his contract. And you know, like I said earlier, the ownership's willing to give Bloom any kind of resource he has to make any kind of trades. I want to know, like, between like the Angels, like I don't know what kind of conversations they've had with the Angels about Arenado, right? Because that's been rumored that the Angels are interested in Arenado. Are the Cardinals going to have to eat up like 25 million plus? I mean, he's just been so bad that, I mean, if you look at it as if he was a free agent right now, he wouldn't get anywhere close to what he makes right now. He's probably a 1 year, $6 to $8 million guy who's going to platoon at third base, right? I think it's going to be hard to move him. I think there are only a select few teams that are really going to reach out, and it might not even be serious interest. It might just be, hey, like, we're just reviewing our options. Like, what are we looking at? You know, can we get some kind of details? Like, would you be able to take on this kind of money? You know, what would you want in return? Because we know it's going to be probably some 18-year-old DSL pitcher who walks 50 guys in 26 innings. I don't know. I think he's just had a really tough job. I think there are areas where it's going to be hard to make a decision, and you don't want to release the guy. I mean, you're paying him so much money right now that, to me, like, releasing him isn't worth it, especially since you're going in a rebuild, really. You know, I don't know. I think it's a little bit of overreaction, but I think he's done a fine job up to this point.
Well, part of the problem with Arenado is that he still has 2 years, we have to remember, on that deal. And, you know, that does make it difficult because last year, you know, you're like, oh, we're going to try to give him somebody for this year, maybe next year, and then kind of see what it is. Well, he didn't contribute last year to where now he's even attractive at all. Aidan, like you're saying, if he was a free agent, like, he ain't getting anything. But then another thing, Aidan, you mentioned was, you know, you can hang on to Donnie until the trade deadline. I am personally nervous about banking on hitters to hold value or at least, you know, build on value going into the season. I think there's much more variance in hitters' performance. Of course, pitchers, you have the health question, but I think more often than not, I'm going to bank on that pitcher being healthy. I'm going to anticipate they're going to be healthy. But the hitting, I think there's just always so much change from the pitching aspect of it. You know, we saw torpedo bats for a month and a half last year. Like, how much stock are we going to put in that? I know Donnie has been, the stats going around, he's been one of the most consistent hitters since he's popped into the league, you know, being that 120 WRC plus or whatever it is around that area. But is he somebody that can actually build his value going into the trade deadline? Is he going to be that piece that somebody's searching for in July that's going to be like, you know what, Brendan Donovan is going to take our team from what we have now to what it needs to be in order to compete in October? I don't know if he is the final piece. I think he is a piece that will help you get to that block. Either one of you, does that make sense in my kind of view of why I feel Donovan needs to be traded now? And needs is, again, kind of a loose term there.
Well, I think it goes, one in the hand, two in the bush, right? Like, if you can trade him now and get what you can get for him now, you might be able to hold on and get more later. Or, you might end up rolling the dice and, you roll craps and then he's worth less or gets injured or something like that. I think there's, you can look at it either way. I think it's okay right now still to hold, especially with Ketel kind of hanging out there until Hazen says, all right, we're done with this, we're keeping him, or they trade him. I think things clarify a little bit. And I think we're okay. Again, like, he's the one where I would love to make sure and lock down a return for him and a nice one, but you also don't want to be rash and trade a nice piece for 75 cents on the dollar and then look back and say, oh, then they trade Ketel and then other teams are out shopping for a second baseman once the music stops and the chairs run out. You don't want to pass up that opportunity. So it's a risk either way. But I think the hand is probably stronger being held closer to the vest right now than just playing it to get it out, getting the card out of your hand. So,
all right. So how do we feel currently about the infield? With the current situation that we have with Arenado, I still expect him to be traded or gone. I feel like we all expect him to be gone. So with the current look at the infield, like, where do you think the priority is going to lean then for the organization? Are they actually going to say, we need Weatherholt to perform in spring training in order to make the major league roster? Or are they going to be like, you know what, we're not going to say it, but he is going to be our starting X baseman, whether it's going to be third base, second base? Where do you guys anticipate JJ Weatherholt with this current situation? Let's assume only Arenado gets traded. Brendan Donovan is still a part of this team. Where do we see JJ Weatherholt in 2026 at the start of the year?
I'll let Aidan run with that one first.
Man, that's a tough one. I know it's pretty split between the front office. Some guys view him as a second baseman. Some guys view him as a third baseman. It's just tough. That's such a tough question because I think there are a lot of guys they're willing to give opportunity to. I think they're willing, like you said, they're willing to give JJ Weatherholt any opportunity he can have because obviously he's a game changer. Nolan Gorman's going to get any opportunity he can. And I even think Thomas Jaycee is going to get some opportunities that people aren't going to be expecting. He's kind of just a player that's sitting there right now. I mean, there's something there in the tank. Do we know how much we're really going to get out of him? No, because we haven't been really able to see what he can do at the major league level. We have just a small sample size right now, probably just a little bit over 100 games. But I think JJ Weatherholt's going to get the first opportunity. It's tough because if they play him at second base, are they going to play Arenado at third? Or are they gonna play Gorman at third over Arenado? It's just tough. So if Donovan's still on the team, I bet you see Weatherholt at third if he's given that opportunity and runs away with it. That would be my guess, but I feel like Gorman could get that spot too. I just don't know.
Mm-hmm. See, that's part of my weekly post on Viva Alberto's this week was talking about Jaycee being kind of the biggest loser in this inactivity. Like, as of right now, he might just be, hey, you're going to pull the Jose Fermin role and either start in Memphis or you're going to sit and get one start a week at the major league level. And this is a former Texas League MVP, a guy that could hit, that I agree is just not getting that chance. And he might work his way into some type of organizational conversation this year, whether that means as a trade piece or whether that means as somebody that forces his way in. But DeWallet, what do we think? Is spring training important for JJ Weatherholt? I know that they're trying to get rid of the possibility of holding prospects back in in the minor leagues, the draft picks and things like that. But could they possibly use another Chris Bryant excuse and say, hey, he's learning a new position, we need to keep him down a little bit longer?
I mean, you could. To me, whatever position the front office foresees him, I think that's where you should play him. And if there's a spot open, I think he starts. He starts every day. I don't like the idea of moving him around, starting him at third base, and then a couple years, let's move him over to second. Okay, let's move him back to third. I don't really want to do that with a player like J.J. Weatherholt. I'd prefer that he start, whether it's third or second, he starts, opening day. Assuming, if he gets just bowled over in spring training, I think then especially the last couple of weeks facing real major league pitchers, I think maybe you can reevaluate. But I don't really expect that to happen, so my assumption and thought and really preference is that he would start on the big club in one spot as the everyday, 120 game, 130 game, 40 game, whatever player. You mentioned Sajaci, and him, I don't know that I agree that he's the loser in all of this, because I think his future is one that's similar to Edman and Donovan's. I think he's going to end up having a whole bunch of different gloves for the team, so he could definitely start several days a week, versus a left-hander at first base. Maybe get some run in center field, left field, right field, certainly third base. Even shortstop, he could give Mason a blow. I don't think he can play there for an extended period, but for a day, I don't think that's a problem. So I'm excited to see him because I want to see him all over the place, and I think he's got that within him. And like you said, the bat is kind of exciting, especially for like Texas League MVP. Like that's a fun thing to have off your bench as a utility player.
Yeah, I think this is definitely, it's January 6th today. We're definitely having this conversation way before we know what's going to happen. We do think that there's going to be a lot of shakeup on the major league roster. And what I think is what is coming is that I am overreacting just a little bit in my expectations or feelings about what Chaim Bloom has done so far. So before we kind of put this thing to wraps, I want to ask you guys one more question and then give you the opportunity to talk about yourselves. If knowing that the Cardinals are about to enter this X year rebuild, how are they going to get you into the ballpark? Who are they going to market? What is it that you want to see? I will say I'm out of town. I'm in the Chicagoland area. I'm going to go to as many Cardinals games as I am allowed to get to. It's going to be at least one series a year, regardless of what's going on. But for those that maybe be more local, maybe have a little bit more of that emotional connection to the team, what is it going to take to keep you tuning in, getting to the ballpark, and giving them your money? DeWallet, let's start with you. What do we think?
So, I mean, really just playing the kids. The biggest fear, and I don't really have the worry anymore, but the biggest fear I would always have is that for so many years they always defaulted to veterans. It was kind of the boring steady eddies, and that's a tough sell to get people out of the ballpark. J.J. Weatherholt's going to get me out there. When they bring up Liam Doyle, he's going to get me out there. These are the young, exciting prospects, giving them time, the opportunity to sink in, because that was always the thing that you've heard, right, over and over and over again, is the players came up and they felt like they had to go 6 for 4 every day to maintain, a starting role, and without losing it to, a wily veteran that's going to get them to the wild card, So seeing those rookies with the high upside and the younger players really get a chance to spread their wings and blossom, that's what's going to get me out there.
Aidan, what do you think?
Yeah, I think DeWallet pretty much nailed it. The younger players are going to bring more fans, and whether it's J.J. Weatherholt, there's a chance you see Quinn Matthews at some point next year. I mean, I wouldn't say it's unrealistic to imagine that Joshua Baez maybe gets a stint in September. There are a lot of prospects who took a jump last year, besides Quinn Matthews, but I think we can all agree that he could get back to where he was. Mm-hmm. There was just so much excitement around how well a lot of our prospects did, and I think a lot of them took that extra jump they needed to, and I think that's going to give them the opportunity to get a taste of Major League Baseball, and I think that's going to bring fans in. Obviously, Mason Wynn's going to bring fans in. I mean, the defense is exciting, the arm's exciting. Ivan Herrera's going to bring fans in as long as he stays healthy. I think Alec Burleson's a really underrated player on this team. He's super exciting. He has sneaky pop. unbelievable bat to ball skills. And I'm just really excited that he gets to play first base. I
Okay.
mean, I'm excited that I don't have to watch him track a ball down in the corner in left field and it takes him 50 seconds to get to the ball. I mean, he gets to play his natural position at first base coming up through the minors. So that's exciting. But, I mean, other than that, leave it to the marketing team. I mean, they're going to have to promote something, whether it's like free beer Saturday or something like that. But in terms of the team, young guys are going to be fun. I will throw like a fun scenario out there. I think if Arenado somehow did go back to his elite status, again, it's not going to happen. But if it did, he's a guy that could get you in the seats if he somehow figured it out. Like, again, the chance of that is probably less than 1%. But let's be honest, he was fun to watch for the first 3 years. Like, he was terrific. And if he could get there again, if he could at least become like a slightly above average hitter, right? Like 105 OPS plus, right? Could hit you like 20 home runs. Even if he bats 230, like 20 home runs from Nato, that's exciting. So, I don't know. He's
So
a guy
you're-
that can bring fans in.
That sounds like you're promising a Nolan Arenado bounce back.
That is
Calling a
not.
shot.
That is not what I'm doing. That was
I am
more of a
clipping
hot
that.
take. That
I'm
was more of a hot take.
I am clipping that whisper so nobody knows
Don't
that you
twist
said
my
it.
words.
But I did notice neither of you mentioned Jordan Walker's name. But that's going to be a conversation for another day. That's going to continue for, I think, the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
Definitely through this season. Spring training will be fun to follow on that one. But
Yeah.
before we get out of here, do you want to jump on Jordan Walker here real quick there, Aidan?
I just wanted to say, like, I'm excited for him.
There you go. Yeah, absolutely.
He's getting runway, and like, this is gonna sound like totally mean. And Jordan, if you somehow hear this, like, this isn't me picking
Well,
on
we
you.
are worldwide and viral, so he's
Yeah.
going to see it.
I've seen mixed reports over the last year that, you know, his maturity is through the roof, but I've also seen, like, he doesn't work the way, you know, most major leaguers do. And I feel like we saw a lot of reports that he's committed to the work this offseason. He's going to take this Cardinals offseason plan very seriously. And if you look at what they did with Joshua Baez, they did a lot of work with him over the offseason, and it clearly worked. They clearly had an idea of what he needed to do, and it fixed him. It gives me hope for Jordan Walker. Now, is he going to come back and be that 30 home run guy that Josh Baez was? Probably not. But if he's a guy that can be similar to his rookie year, hit almost 20 home runs, have an almost 800 OPS, I mean, he's got all the talent. He's got the ability to do it. He's got to be committed, and it seems, I've seen videos, he's seemed committed so far. So I'm excited. That's a whole nother conversation, though. We'll be coming back to it in spring training, I'm sure. We'll be evaluating him like nuts, but there's hope. There is hope for me.
And April and May and June and July. Yeah.
He might even be in Memphis in July. I mean, that's for all we know.
The option discussion is going to be one that's going to be,
Yeah.
hopefully we don't have to have. But again,
Absolutely.
we are about to turn this into a part 2 coming your way. So
leave it
before we spin off the rails too quickly, I want to get the opportunity to thank Aidan and DeWallet for jumping on here and give them the chance to talk about themselves. Aidan, you were just in that talking groove, so go ahead and tell us where we can find you, what it is that you're up to, what your MBA program is going to be all about, and everything like that.
Yeah, so first off, I'm the data and analytics coordinator for the Belmont baseball team. So we're a Division I program. We play in the Missouri Valley Conference. So we play Missouri State, we play Illinois State. I don't know if you guys are in the area, but we play some local schools from you guys. I'm very excited about the season. I think we'll bring a tough fight to everybody. Am I allowed to give like a social media like shout out here for me?
Oh, that's the point of this part. Absolutely.
Oh,
If somebody's
absolutely.
here this long, they're tapped in. They're ready to see you.
Sweet. So if you like prospect analysis, player analysis, stupid opinions half the time, go to Twitter and follow me at, this is a really long name now, so bear with me. It's Aidan Gray 8. Yes, Gray in there twice. Gray with an A, not an E.
And I will have that linked. I'll have that linked in here, and then I will have it again at the bottom of the screen. So
Sweet.
yeah, Aidan Gray, double the fun. Make sure you follow him over there. And DeWallet, what's up with you? Where can we find you?
On Twitter, Blue Sky at OT Lee. I did want to pitch real quick, or kind of promote. There's somebody on Twitter, Greg Poole, who works in Southern Illinois, and he works his business. He works for a ministry that helps local families, local schools get supplies and just things they need for every day, along with Christmas presents. It's really wonderful work. He's at Can Ministry on Twitter. He will take all the commons that you've got in terms of, like, if you're a collector, especially if you're one of the gambling rippers and just looking for the hits. He will take all the base cards. He puts them in packs. He has them stadium rips at Busch Stadium as well. But he's doing a ton of wonderful things. I highly suggest you follow him. It's great soul food to see what he's doing. And then if anybody can help out, that's always appreciated. So I just want to throw that out there.
I'll have him linked as well. I'm planning on sending him a bunch of my stuff, like we were talking about over there on Twitter, making sure that Greg gets that stuff because that is an awesome, awesome thing that he's doing. So make sure you go check Greg out as well. But for DeWallet, for Aidan, I want to thank you all for coming in here, giving us your vibe, talking me off the ledge just a little bit, practice that patience that we've heard so much about. And I want to thank you again for coming on. From Interstate 70 Sports Media and the Baseball Banter broadcast, I'm Scott Plaza, and this was Cardinals on My Time.